you to our educational community civic series with Weldianne Scales, candidate running for magistrate. And we also have our president of the NAACP Pittsburgh chapter, our Pittsburgh branch. And before we get started, I want to make sure that we welcome him and let him introduce himself to you, first of all, to our guest, Miss Deanne, and make sure that our audience know exactly who you are. So, Dalen, would you like to introduce yourself to our guest and our audience?
Hey, Ms. Scales. So I'm the new president of the NAACP Pittsburgh branch. We have partnered with West End Power in order to create this civic engagement series surrounding the upcoming elections and making sure people know who to get out and vote for, what their priorities are, and just to know who the candidates themselves are. So I just want to extend my gratitude for you taking the time today to being a part of the civic engagement series.
Thank you. I am very much honored and very much grateful to be a part of this platform.
Well, thank you. And thank you, President Dalen Davis of the NAACP Pittsburgh branch. He will be jumping off, but I'm sure that you will be able to, you want to leave your information just in case the Ms. Scales would like to get in touch with you?
Yep, I'll provide that information through Ms. Terri, who is also our political actions chair for the branch. So a lot of cross organization in here.
No, it's perfect. I'm very much happy to meet you. I'll tell you a little bit more why I don't want to take up too much space talking about things that Terri does not have on the agenda.
All right. So, Mr. President, we will talk to you soon. And thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Miss Deanne, thank you so much for taking the time out to, grace yourself with us. And first and foremost, I want to apologize to you and your team for, the confusion. There's been so much going on with West End Power, our team, and the guests that we do have some great guests coming up. We have county treasurers. We have some great guests coming up. And I just want to say, we apologize to you and your team here at West End Power for all the confusion and your time, and with your time. And so if you don't have any questions at all, we would like to get started. But if you have any questions, please go ahead.
No worries at all. No apologies needed. I have very much learned throughout this campaign that everyone is literally going through something.
Yeah.
And so it's important to be patient and understand that everything is going to work out.
Well, we appreciate that. And so and for our guests, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and Ms. Scales will answer them at the end of our civic series. So Ms. Scales, for anyone who do not know you, please tell us, who are you?
Yes. So Terri has definitely let you guys know I'm Weldianne Scales. I do go by Weldy. I'm just that approachable. I am a mother. I'm also a wife. I have 2 beautiful children. I'm also an attorney. I have been practicing here for years in the areas of criminal defense, civil litigation, immigration as well, landlord tenant, and real estate. Those are some of my primary areas that I have been fortunate. And throughout my practices, I've been able to help individuals, families, and youth navigate throughout the legal system. I'm now currently serving in my 4th year as the vice president for the Borough of Swissvale Council. I'm also the chair and the founder of Swissvale Council's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Through my work on council, I've been able to continue to give back to the community, but also actually execute what the community has been asking for. So we have an anti-discrimination ordinance with a human relations commission. We have had a host of legislative acts take place that embraces our diversity, protects our diversity, so that we can continue to thrive within the borough of Swissvale. in addition to that work, I have been instrumental in free legal clinics as well, and providing pro bono services through the Neighborhood Legal Services Association, which I still actually do take part in for protection from abuse cases. I currently served on the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas Arbitration Advisory Committee as well. So those are a lot of things that I'm doing in the legal and actual in the community. And that's the background of me as a family woman as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. So let me ask, so you from attorney to the because I did read that you were you were chair and founder of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in Swissvale Borough. So come from there to magistrate. Why?
Yes. Because magistrate is the first stop. It is literally the first introduction. And there's all this work that I'm doing from the legislative piece. And then there's the work that I'm doing as an attorney.
Right.
And I see that the courts are not following suit. And we can create legislation all day to create a fair playing field, but if our courts are not also following suit, we're not achieving what we want to achieve in our communities. And that is having communities that we are building up and we are actually protecting the individuals within it. And I see on a daily basis, from just appearing as an attorney before the court, how detrimental it is to the individuals that come before the court when we have magistrates that are biased, that are not upholding the law fairly and consistently, but also some of the detriment that happens that when we have magistrates that are not well versed in the law. It impacts people not just sometimes for a temporary moment, it's for a lifetime. And our particular magistrate, in addition to it handling criminal, civil, real estate, traffic, and non-traffic, what's unique about it is our magistrate oversees all of the truancy cases for the Woodland Hills School District. So that is a tremendous opportunity to help our youth. Our youth, what I have learned, not only just as a mom and an aunt and a cousin, but as a litigator who's in this courtroom, our youth, they are undergoing and experiencing some things in life that we as adults have not managed to overcome. And the magistrate is a tremendous opportunity to work with our youth, equip them with real resources to get them on the fair playing field so they can move forward in life. That is why I decided for magistrate, because when we talk about reform, when we talk about building up our communities, when we talk about having representation that matters, it's the magistrate. That is, it's the entry point. This is the opportunity to build up folks. This is the opportunity to show folks what justice looks like. This is a place that's supposed to be a trusted space. And I just could not sit back knowing, having the skill set that I have and the compassion that I have and not do something and actually want to see this actually exist in our court.
Wow. I greatly appreciate that. I greatly appreciate your answer. And I greatly appreciate that, I also heard that, you seen and you heard and you witnessed, what's going on in our judicial system. And instead of staying on the sideline, complaining about it, you said, I'm just going to get into the ring and let's fight, so that's what I heard. And anybody has to appreciate that. I also heard you talk about, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, the magistrate is the first stop. That's it. That is the first stop. That's the prison to the pipeline. That's the prison you spoke on so much right there. And especially my biggest pet peeve is the slum landlords. I have a issue. I just, sometimes I can't sleep because of our slum and the way that they, leave our communities. So I'm so glad that you spoke on that. But so what could be done for someone who don't know, I know that we're in here on, I'm in the West End of Pittsburgh. We're going to have a educational civic series with our magistrate about just some do's and some don'ts. I'm sorry. And, did you knows? What actually can someone in your district go for or should know about slum landlords? What can they do?
Yeah, and this is something I've run into because that's an area of practice that I am very much well versed in. Um, so the problem is that once again, that knowledge of the law piece. To be a
Mm-hmm.
good magistrate, you really do need two qualities. You need to know the law, for one, so that you can actually uphold it. And you don't have to worry about being spoon fed the law. And sometimes the problem is that when the litigants come before the magistrate and it's a landlord or tenant, a lot of times it's the landlord that knows the magistrate.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's difficult for many of them to make that difficult
Right.
decision, being that this is someone that they know. And also, they may be borderline on whether or not the law is actually, in support of ruling in a particular way. So, what can be done is first, we really do need to be well versed in the law. When it
Right.
comes to landlord tenant matters, there are several different areas of the law that take place. There is the Landlord Tenant Act,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also contract law. And then there's also evidentiary rules of law. And then there's what's called it's a Pennsylvania based law, basically, that I've actually used for cases of mine, that protects tenants, honestly. And this particular area of the law, what it does is it provides compensation for attorney fees, but it only provides compensation if you win. And so
Mm.
this is a whole nother aspect of the law that is there to protect tenants, particularly in landlord tenant cases. And so when an individual comes before the magistrate, if the magistrate is not well versed or has no clue
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever on these various aspects of the law that are controlling with this particular issue, a lot of times what I've witnessed is that they will rule for possession with the understanding that the tenant could just easily appeal. And no, that's not the case, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because what I've experienced, and just for complete transparency, I've represented both ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
And when they are at the court, at this point, both parties want to separate. The tenant wants to move on, the landlord wants to move on. But when you make that type of ruling, you have now locked these two together,
Mm.
because that tenant, if they want to go anywhere else, what's going to happen? Automatically a background check.
Yep.
And so now the tenant is dealing with a lot of rejections simply because an eviction was filed and possession was granted. More importantly, yes, a tenant can appeal, but if it is for possession and is unpaid rent, when they appeal to the court of common pleas, they now have to pay rent into an escrow account at the court of common pleas.
See.
So that is what they have to do unless they get some type of release from the court in order for their appeal to even happen. So now that's another burden, not only on the tenant, but the landlord, because whatever rent they were receiving, they're not receiving.
Yeah.
They're not receiving until their day in court happens. And even if their day in court happens, it's going to be arbitration. And guess what? After an arbitration, there's another opportunity to appeal. So you have not addressed the underlying issue, for one,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because now you have two individuals who are still together who want to separate. But then what you've also done is created a barrier for a tenant to actually move on. And so it takes the knowledge of the law for in reality to understand how these decisions impacts the individuals that come before you and where's the law on it. But it also takes an identification and commitment to the community.
Yeah.
Because if you know your community, you will know what are the problems right now. Do you have a community where you got a lot of landlords who have bought up a ton of property and don't actually live there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a lot of landlords that when you send
Wow.
notices, you can't get any responses from them because they're completely just ignoring this process?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, then you simply ruling for possession just because you don't want to make anybody upset. That is not going to fix the problem.
Right.
That is not going to address the underlying issue as to why this case and these individuals are before the court in the first place. And
Wow.
we need those two things. But what we also could benefit from is more education coming from the courts. What I have learned is that my campaign has been an education series as well.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mm-hmm.
lot of folks don't know. They have no clue whatsoever that the magistrate has this type of authority.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they have no clue that, how this authority impacts our communities.
Right.
And once we educate them and we let them know, and then we shed light on this is why I'm the best candidate. Now they're like, okay,
Right.
I feel empowered, and I also feel confident to vote, because beforehand I did not even know what this was for, nor did I know how much this would impact me, my loved ones, and my community. So education is going to be key.
Wow.
And I do honestly believe it needs to come from the courts.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're doing now to get elected. We should continue that.
Right, right. Wow, I want to. I greatly appreciate that, because this is exactly another reason why we love doing these educational community civic series, because this is how you learn. And a lot of times we have candidates, that's running. They'll say, well, this is what I can do, this is what I can do, and this is what I can do, but not at the same time educating. You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
Yes.
This is what this seat does. If you are fortunate enough to sit in this seat, and if you're fortunate, if not, you're still educating your community, and so that's powerful.
Yes.
That is extremely powerful, and anybody and everybody should greatly appreciate that, because there's, like you said, you don't know what you don't know, and so our ignorance is their power. You see what I'm saying? And so, and here at Western Power, we like to say, the best thing to do is be educated, because nobody can take that away from you. So I greatly appreciate that, because especially with magistrates, people just don't know the power of what's in our community. And so thank you so much for that. Thank you.
No problem. I agree. I forgot what podcast I was on, but I literally said knowledge is power. Because once you have that knowledge, now you have insight, and now you can do something about it.
Exactly. And that's something that they cannot take. Queenie's going to, Queenie.
I'll admit, dogs love me, and I love dogs.
Like, she's listening to your voice, and she's
dogs
just like,
love
where
me.
are you?
Dogs love me, and I love dogs. So when I'm visiting voters, they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, I want to see your fur babies. No, I actually like pets. My family picks on me because they're like, oh, you're really trying to get those. I was like, no, I love animals.
Wow.
And I'm missing my dog right now. She passed right before I gave birth to my son. So, I don't have my fur baby anymore. So when I hear other fur babies love me, for real, because I love them.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Ours, Queenie's 13, matter of fact, but yes. So let me ask you this, because I don't hear a lot of our magistrates, and there may be some I just don't know about them. Maybe you can educate us about them. Is there night court, especially for families that work? A lot of time you're scheduled. Someone is scheduled for work hours. So
Mhm.
is that something that you can see yourself doing in your courtroom, is accommodating working members, or in your community, working families in your community? Is that something that you can see yourself doing? And if so, how
That's
and
actually
why?
what I've been discussing that I would like to see, especially with our particular magistrate overseeing all of the truancy
Right.
cases. So I would actually like to see evening court for truancy cases. You know, we have
Mm,
children here who are coming before the courtroom because they're being accused of missing school.
right.
And parents having to make sure that they are present as well. So I would like to see evening court for our truancy cases so that there can be accommodation, and we don't have to worry about our children missing school just to appear in court. So I
Right.
would like to see that. I've heard folks mention night court, but I'm going to be completely honest
Right.
with you, I've never seen it unless
I
it
was
was.
going to ask you, do you know of anyone? I've heard it, and
I've
usually
heard it,
right. But
but I've never seen that before, unless it was, a criminal case and it's arraignments that's happening
yeah,
overnight.
yeah.
But true accommodations to help out families and children, no, I have not seen that happen. Now, that's not to say it doesn't happen, but I've practiced throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I've been fortunate to be able to see various different magistrate courts, and I've seen some really good magistrates. I have to tell you that there
right.
are some really good magistrates that we have.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting, I don't know if this was mentioned, out of the 46 magistrates that we do have,
Hmm.
there are only 5 magistrates of color. And out of that 5, there are only 2 women of color.
So that was one of my questions. I wanted you to educate us on, exactly. So you gave us the 46. I wanted you to also comment on the people of color that that are in our communities as magistrates, and I also wanted to comment on how many are women.
Yeah. It's only 2 women of color. We did break down the numbers in terms of women overall. I don't have it in front of me, and I am a rule of thumb if you don't say anything if you don't know for sure. But we did just break down those numbers. I don't have it at the top of my head, but there
Okay.
are only 2 women of color, which is still concerning
Yeah.
because that is not representative of our community. If we got 46 and only 2 women of color, and I've watched some of your series, and you talked about the population of our jail system.
Yeah.
We're all well informed that our jail is overly populated with more Black and brown people,
Exactly.
and we got more in the jail than we actually do have in our judicial system, which is
Exactly.
not reflective nor representative of the individuals that come before the courtroom, nor our actual communities that our magistrates serve.
Wow. And that is so true. Like our the population of this incarceration and just in our county, our county holds the highest of life without the possibility of parole. Our county holds the majority of our state, I should say, of people incarcerated from our surrounding neighbors. So it's extremely concerning. And then I want to go exactly back to what you said at the very beginning. It starts right here.
Mhm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is extremely an important seat. These are one of the seats that you can't sit out. You know what I'm saying? We should never sit out any election. All elections are important. Please don't misunderstand me. But our magistrates is the cornerstone of our community. Okay, and exactly what you said. It all starts right here. It
Yeah.
all starts right here. So tell us exactly what communities are you representing to run for?
So we have a big district.
Mm-hmm.
It's Swissvale, Forest Hills, Braddock Hills, Churchill, and Chalfont. So we have 5 municipalities. So it
Mm-hmm.
is a very large territory.
Wow. Okay. And so if someone didn't know that, we wanted to make sure that the people, because a lot of times people, they hear that there's a magistrate running, but it don't affect me. you know what I'm saying, or it don't affect my community. So I wanted to make sure that we got that out there, that they know what communities you are running to represent for them.
Absolutely.
My next question is, if there were two things that you had the power to change right now in the position to be of being a magistrate, what would they be?
This whole money requirement, because money is not a very good factor in determining who is truly an advocate for the people.
Wait, what do you mean money? What do you mean?
So money plays a factor in our judicial system. So,
Mm-hmm.
we have our cash bail,
Mm-hmm.
but then money plays a factor in when you're running for a position, a judicial position. And money having this much influence also is not for the benefit nor the betterment of the people. So if I could change one thing, it definitely would be that money not having so much of a powerful influence in the freedom of the individuals that come before our courts, but also having so much of a power influence in terms of who actually runs for these positions. So that's one thing I definitely would like to change. And then the second thing that I would like to change in terms of running for this position is getting more people involved. And, going back to what I said to before, everybody's going through something. I wholeheartedly get it. But this is important not for me, but for your community.
Yeah.
And when it comes to you, your loved ones, friends, family, or whatever the case may be, these are opportunities for you to do something about it rather than wait until something happens to you. So it would be to get more folks involved, because if everyone, contributes an hour or 30 minutes of their time towards these sort of races, or even if it's an initiative, there's a lot of things that I do that are volunteer based. We could achieve so much more.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so glad you brought that up, because when I was doing some research on you, it was 90% and you was volunteering. I was like, well, you do a lot of volunteering. I seen you're everywhere. You're literally volunteering everywhere. So and so let me ask you this. If you're fortunate enough to become the next magistrate, is that something you will continue, or can you? Is that something that you will no longer be allowed to do, or is that something that you will continue to do?
So there are some rules in terms of what I can and what type of courts and cases I can take and things of that nature. But I want to continue my work in the community. I obviously cannot still be a council person. I cannot do that.
Right.
This is actually my last year as a councilwoman, but I definitely want to continue the work that I'm doing in the community because I care.
Right.
These children, they're my kids. Me and my husband are considered fourth generational residents here. So a lot of the individuals that are walking across the street or got issues or concerns, these are folks that I know or that we grew up with. So I care. And even if I don't know you, I still care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was one of those who is truly a product of people caring. Before I met my husband, I was a single parent. And it truly took someone listening to me for me to get help, for me to be able to have access to resources so that I can be where I'm at today. And now I'm reaching back so that I can help out others. So I definitely want to continue the work that I'm doing if I'm fortunate to become magistrate, because it's needed.
Wow. And you know, like you were just saying, I'm so glad that you have brought that up. Did you know the people that's walking across the street, 9 out of 10, you're either going to know them, even if you don't know them, you still care about them and or your community. I do know that, you know, anyone before we had, you know, what I like to do is I do this little research. I'll ask a couple people, hey, do you know, and I'm gonna tell you something. Not one person had anything, even slightly, bad
Oh,
to say about you. Yes, yes.
oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, I can say that, you know, everyone, this is genuinely who you are. And so I just wanted to, you know, share that with you. I wanted to make sure that our audience that knows that, because I do what we do not just um you know, make up the questions. We do some research. We do, you know, we do ask questions. And so I wanted to make sure that I share that, you know, with our audience and with you as well, because we don't get that a lot. We usually get something is, you know, we usually get something that we could be like, oh, really? So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that about the people that you are caring about cares just as much about you. So I wanted to make sure that you knew your community cares about you as well.
Oh,
Um,
thank
a couple more questions and then we can wrap it up. My next question I wanted to ask you is, why you? Why should someone vote for you?
So yes, I'm going to just have to toot my horn here. I am
Please.
the best candidate. I do possess those two qualities that a good magistrate needs: is knowledge of the law, but actually identifies and is committed to our community. You need those two pieces if you truly want to be about justice. And if you truly want to be about equal access to justice, those are the two qualities. And those are the qualities that I have. And I've learned, but prior to, you know, running for office, that reputation matters and your
Mm,
reputation should precede you. And you just spoke for me, Miss Terry, that
mhm.
my reputation preceded me before I had the opportunity to even sit
Yeah.
here before you. That my compassion, my commitment is real.
Mhm.
And the fact that I am well versed in the areas of the law that our magistrate sees, that's real as well, because these individuals I have been out here helping and advocating for. That is why I am the best. And that is why I should be chosen, because a magistrate needs to also be impartial
Mhm.
and need to have the capability to set your own biases aside for to execute justice. And
Mhm.
I have been fortunate to represent both sides of the fence, to understand what it truly means to uphold the law, but uphold the law consistently and fairly.
Wow. Well, you heard it right there. So let me ask you my last question. Well, not my last question. My next to the last question is, so if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, maybe they wanted to ask some questions that we did not discuss, or maybe they even want to volunteer or donate. How can somebody get in touch with you?
So with magistrates, underneath the rule that I can't ask for money nor personally receive it, but I do have a nice committee.
Mhm.
And my website also is www.scalesformagistrate.com. You can contact me or my team through my website. You can register to volunteer as well through my website. And you can also see all of the activities that are going on with my campaign. And we have a social media presence as well on Facebook and Instagram. So I would say that is the best form of contact. But in case we have some folks who can't find me on the website or can't find me on social media, you can also contact 412-436-9529.
Okay. Want to say that one more time? 412.
412-436-9529.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that's how you, if you have any questions or you want to volunteer, you know, please reach out. Or if you want, like I said, if you have questions that you and I did not talk about, Ms. Scales is open to that as well. Now, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to say to your constituents, to the audience, or period? Is there anything else that you would like to say to wrap it up?
Yes. So the primary election is May 16th. Please do keep me in mind and make sure you vote loud and proud for Weldianne Scales for Magistrate Judge. But we can use some canvassers. So if you can donate any time to come and knock some doors with us, we are knocking doors every single weekend. And we basically discuss the plight, the plots, and the highlight and everything about my campaign. So the only thing I can ask for you at this moment is to get involved.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And again, it was such a pleasure having you. It was such a pleasure learning from you. And it was such a pleasure of getting to talk to you and meet the people, the person that the people has been telling us about. And so we look forward to having you back. You know, if you win your seat, we would love to have you come back. And you know, talk again. Let this not be the last time that you visit our educational community civic series. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, from her mouth to your ears. And with that being said, we're going to close it out. Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Thank you.